could share our 9 tips about easing from school to homeschool, because it's quite an adjustment for parents who have taken the kids out of the school system and they're starting home education. And of course, we all start out somewhere in that zone with this whole school mindset, and we have to make this mind shift. But there are also some practical things that we could do. And so one of the first things that I think is important is to bring your children into the conversation and talk to them about home education and what you imagine it's going to be like and what you would like it to be like, and ask them what they would like it to be like, and talk about what are, you know, dreams and goals, but also maybe be realistic, even though you've got no experience. You know, just set their expectations perhaps. So I think that's one of the good things, and it's a time also for what some people call relationship bootcamp.
Yes.
This whole learning to talk to your children about what's going on, learning to give them a say in their education, learning to listen to them when there are issues, helping them to speak out things instead of, you know, acting it out with attitudes and bad behavior, because there are going to be those days where parents and children rub up against each other, and we have to train them to deal with those things. So I think those are 2 very important things, and I'll let you talk about things like not recreating school at home and homeschooling, and then we see where we go from there.
Yeah, I think that's always the danger, is that when we come out of the school system, the first thing we do is grab what's most familiar to us, and then we try and we think that it's got to look like that in our home. And very few parents manage that successfully. And often it is easier for a parent to choose to do something different, even though our safe space is doing what is familiar. There's no growth there. You're going to find a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, because a lot of the programs that have been written for schools don't help in the home. They're not built for the home. They're not built for a mom who perhaps was a beauty therapist and now she's meant to be teaching science. So that's the one thing. And we must remember that in a place where you are unstable and unsteady, that's where growth of your character comes. So we can stay comfortable and maybe turn into a bit of a dragon, nagging our children and being stressed, but you're comfortable because you're not really stretching yourself as a person. But in the process of not doing school at home, you grow and you learn alongside your children, which again goes straight back into what you said about the boot camp and engaging with your children about the process that's to come. So that's 3 tips. Another tip, which I think you probably best qualified to answer, is what about the legal aspect quickly? We're taking our children from the education department system and you're bringing them at home. What should parents do in terms of a tip in that space?
Well, I think every home educating parent needs to understand the legalities of home education and this stage of transition that we're kind of in at the moment, where there's new legislation pending, but it hasn't yet passed. And it is starting to cause some problems. And so I always advise parents to join the Pestalozzi Trust, which is a homeschool legal defense association, so that you've got legal backing if you need it, and to research why many homeschooling parents do not actually register with the Department of Education and their reasons. And generally, it's that the requirements are not in the best interest of the children. But if you make that choice, you do need to understand what the possible consequences are and how to handle them. And that's why it's always best to join the Pestalozzi Trust, so that you can get legal advice for your specific circumstances. And with that, you know that you've got somebody to cover your back, and you can sleep peacefully at night and then not worry about this aspect of home education. The other thing that I think is important for mothers and fathers is to also get social support, so that you connect with other parents who are home educating, so that you're hanging out with people who are like-minded, not criticizing your choice, but who can actually talk to you about things that are that you want to discuss or answer questions that you have. And, you know, it just provides you another level of confidence to know that you're not the only one doing this. And there are people who have faced the same issues as you, and they have found solutions, and they can share those solutions and those ideas with you. And then, of course, there's the social aspect for the whole family, that parents are always worrying that their children are going to be missing out on the friends that they had at school. And as I always say, if those were genuine friends, they will stay your friends, your children's friends. But if they weren't, then you need to make an effort to mix with other families and find new friends and new interests and go and do things together, because that's how relationships can quickly get established, when you've got a shared experience of something you've been and done together.
Correct. And if there isn't a support network in your area, you know, if you're living out in the back or beyond, then create those environments where you can draw people in. You know, perhaps you hear of the local homeschoolers. We had friends that lived on a farm about half an hour outside of Ladybrand, and they used to bring Bloemfontein homeschoolers through for a day, and they would do horse riding, and then they would do some arts together and some science, and they had a Sotho woman who came and taught them some Sotho, and then they would all swim and have a big lunch together. In the afternoon would just be free play. So it was a whole day that they did once a month, drawing people into their space and their environment, which is lovely. In the town, you know, things that you can do is set up your pizza evenings, do your co-ops, and that sort of thing. So if the network isn't there already, establish one yourself for your children. The other thing that we always talk about is deschooling, and I think it's quite a commonly understood term, but in case they're new, parents new to homeschooling here, we should quickly talk through what deschooling is and what deschooling isn't. So you talk about what it is, and I'll mention what it isn't.
Okay, well, I like to compare deschooling with detoxing, because I think many of us know what that is.
Yeah.
And but in terms of home education, it's advised, and many parents who've done this said it was such good advice, that you take at least a month per year that your child has been in school, and you just do nothing formal, no formal maths, no languages, no textbooks, and you just deschool. And during that time, you should be doing things like reading aloud with your children, letting them bake or let them develop new hobbies, go on outings, go into nature, you know, just you're doing things to stimulate them that are learning activities, but you're not following a formal program and getting into that school mode. And it's a time to also build your relationship with your kids, as we said earlier. So that's how I understand deschooling. I never had to do it because we started from the get-go, but families who have done it have all said it was good advice. It wasn't a waste of time. Their children didn't get behind. They needed that deschooling time.
Correct. So what it isn't is mom running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to cater to the kids' needs and whims and all that sort of thing all the time. You know, it's a time for you to get your children to learn how to do chores. If they've been in school, they're pretty much out of the door by 6:15 and home sometimes after 4 of their sport. So they haven't had time to do chores, and then it's straight into homework. So for a lot of kids who've been in school, they don't know how to do chores. Use that time for that. Try and keep screen time to a minimum. You know, it's not like they're going to have the freedom to just blob in front of an iPad or their phone or the TV all day. That's not deschooling. And the other thing that it's also not is, like you said, you know, picking up the curriculum because you're starting to get nervous. Oh, well, we've been like doing nothing for a month. Well, you haven't been doing nothing. You've been on outings and you've learned things. You've been reading together. You've been baking together, etc., etc. So, yeah, just enjoy and embrace that as something that you can do when you have the freedom of homeschooling. And I think the last thing to mention would be things are not set in stone. When we finished off homeschooling, I had a huge box of curriculum that I bought that I thought was going to be perfect for our family and was going to fit in. And eventually I donated it to other families that were in need because it didn't fit us. It didn't suit us. And it is important to know that you can tweak and you can change. There's nobody standing over you with a whip saying you have to use this because you've spent money on it. Rather pop it back in a box and say somewhere along the line, we can maybe try it again, or you can donate it to somebody in need. What other things do you think that you tweaked through the years?
I think it was really just things like books that were included in a package that we started reading and we realized this book is not inspiring us. It's really not going to be worth the effort to push through, even though sometimes persevering with a meaty book is worth it. But if it wasn't well written or just wasn't captivating us, after a couple of years, I had the confidence just to ditch it and either replace it with something similar or else just skip that book completely. And, you know, I can't even remember what those titles are now, and I'm sure my kids are fine because of it. And, you know, the point is, did I teach them how to learn and how to love reading? And it's more those things than how full is my bucket, how long is my reading list, you know.
Yes, yeah,
So,
yeah. Important point.
I think that's very good advice, to customize what you do to suit your children. And you're the expert on your child, not the curriculum provider, not the person who's sold you the fantastic science program or whatever. So you've got to tweak it to suit your children. And, you know, sometimes it's chucking things out. Sometimes it's also adding things in. When you see a child's really interested in elephants, then you go and get another book at the library with more detailed information, or you go on an outing, you add to what's already there and you customize it to delight the child and to get the most out of it. So it's actually really fun if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. Well, I hope that those couple of tips, I don't even know if we did 9, but I hope those tips have kind of helped with the mindset shift, and we'll chat again.